How old were you 10 years ago? No one likes to ask that question or answer it because it seems so young. Or we like to answer that one, but the question you don't like to answer is how old will you be 10 years from now? It seems sort of old, doesn't it? Well, basically, we have different phases of our life. And you are in a certain phase of your life. You've been through a certain phase 10 years ago. You're at a different one now. You'll be in a different one 10 years from now. What I'd like to do now is to help you understand the various phases of life that I've seen the patterns of over the last 40 years of one-to-one visits with people. I've probably had over 5,000 one-to-one sessions with executives in the last 40 years. I'd like to share with you some of the very distinct patterns I've seen in those interviews. I'd like to show you a few words, and these words capture the essence of each decade of your life. When you're a child, 0 to 10, the key word that you need to really focus on is security. When you're in your teens, the word is self. If you have teenagers, you know what I mean. The key focus of teenagers is self, me, I, mine. The 20s, I just give you all what I call the S words first, and then I'll go back and unpack them a little bit. The 20s is survival. The 30s, the focus is success. The 40s is significance and struggle. 50s is stride. The 60s is strategic. The 70s is succession. The 80s is slippery. And the 90s is sleep. Now, let me go back and unpack these for you just a minute. Children need security. One of the things I would encourage you to do with your children or grandchildren is never say to them, Daddy's going to be gone for a while. Now you take care of Mama, won't you? Don't ever say that to a 9-year-old child or to children, because basically they take it seriously. And when a man walks past their mama and looks at him funny, they don't understand. They just know, am I supposed to hit him or what's supposed to happen here? Instead, you should say, Daddy's going to be gone for a while. Mama's here to take care of you. You be a good boy for Mama, won't you? That's something a boy can do as compared to take care of Mama. What children need, 0 to 10, is unconditional love. That sets up what I call lifelong confidence or life confidence. Another thing that children need to hear you say, Daddy, is I love you, I'm proud of you. Your dad may never have said it to you, and therefore you've wished you could hear it your entire lifetime. To hear your dad say, I love you, I'm proud of you. Even though he may not have said it to you, your son needs to hear it many times from you. And remember that age 9, we won't have time to unpack this like I'd like to this morning, but age 9 is the single most shaping year of a human being's existence. It was your most shaping year, it will be your sons and daughters' most shaping year, because that's where your comfort zones are established. So pay particular attention to having time with your 9-year-old, to helping them grow into their potential, their confidence in typically the 4th grade. Teenagers, self. Self is a relative comparison where the person down the street has 70 pair of shoes and I only have 79, so I must be poor. I must be behind. I'm not what I could be or should be. You need to help teenagers relax. and tell them, I would encourage you not to get married or think of getting married till you're 26 to 30 years old, because you'll be changing so fast that you're not going to be the same person when you're 26 that you were at 16 or 19 or even 20. I encourage you to give them that perspective. And then this is a decade where when they start thinking about marriage, what you want to tell them is do all of your pre-marriage counseling before you get engaged, not after you get engaged, but before you get married. After you get engaged, it's too late for objectivity. The objectivity's gone. So I'd encourage you to encourage your teenage sons, daughters, grandchildren. Do all of your pre-marriage counseling before you get engaged, not before you get married, or do it before you get engaged, not after. And then another thing is to help them decide, are they naturally, instinctively goal-oriented or problem-oriented or opportunity-oriented? Of the people in this room, you have a natural instinct that many of you as executives are very goal-oriented. But actually, probably most of you would rather solve problems than you would to reach goals. And a few of you say, no, I'm not goal-oriented, I'm not problem-oriented, I'm opportunity-oriented. I wait for an opportunity to come up and I get on top of that. That's what excites me. That's what energizes me. That's what I get oriented by, is opportunity. Now, as just a very quick survey, and I need to see your hands as high as you can get them, how many of you by nature are very goal-oriented? Now look at the hands around you. How many of you by nature are very problem-oriented? You'd rather solve a problem than set a goal and reach it. How many are very opportunity-oriented? You see, you want to help your teenagers see that everyone is not goal-oriented, that there are those three at least. Now in your 20s, the question is survival. I actually spend a lot of time with the children of my clients who are 20, 21 years old, just getting out of college, anywhere from Harvard to Bethel College to, just a wide variety. You know what they all share in common? It's a question that's hidden so deep in them, they've never shared it with anyone. But when I mention the word to them, they all recognize it immediately, regardless of the school they come from. And that's the word survival. And the question is, can I survive in the adult world? Every 20-year-old that you ever see in your lifetime is wrestling with that question. They need reassurance. And part of the reassurance they need is to relax. No one is expecting you to change the world yet. When you ask a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, what are you planning to do in life? What they think you're holding accountable, have you changed the world yet? I say, with your children and grandchildren, just reassure them, look, no one's expecting you to change the world. Just relax. They don't know what else to say in this conversation, so they ask you that. So just relax, you'll be okay. This is a decade that when you're trying to decide what you don't want to do the rest of your life, the tragedy is not being 21 or 25 or 28 and not knowing what you want to do the rest of your life. The tragedy is making a decision what you want to do and being stuck there when you're 37 with 3 kids, and it's the wrong thing. Tell them, relax. You're trying to decide what not to do. Try it. If you don't like it, get out and try something else. If you don't like it, try it, get out and try something else. And commit to saving a percentage of your income and living on the rest. I wish we had time to unpack all of this. We don't. The 30s, the focus is success. But it's sliming this slippery pole called success, and many people don't even know what it is. They have no clue. When people come up and they're just hard to go, and they say, what do you want out of life? I want to be successful. Well, do you know what success is? Well, I guess maybe not really. I say success is simply, it's only. This is all success is. It's simply a feeling. It's a feeling you get when you accomplish what you set out to do. But what seems like success in your 20s won't seem like a success if you're still doing it in your 30s. So just basically help them see it's just a feeling. It isn't a place you arrive at. Help them understand that. Encourage them to get a mentor and become one. Encourage them to find balance between business and home. We're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow morning. And then to protect your fourth graders. Help them understand that. You've got on your table there a brochure called Collection 65. In there, it talks about the 65 tools that I have available. By the way, there's also an outline on your table in terms of the talk I'm giving you, so that you don't have to write all of it down. You can make notes on it if you want. But help them understand the importance of that fourth grader they have. And then the 40s, significance of struggle. For those of you in your 40s, I've got some great news for you. You don't have to be rich yet. A lot of 40-year-olds feel like, I'm 40 years old. This is the most important decade of my life. I've got to make money. I've got to be rich. They just feel tremendous pressure to be rich, and they can hardly pay their mortgage. I say you're not supposed to be rich in your 40s. The decade in which you make the most money and have the most significant influence in your life is actually your 60s. Isn't that freeing? And tell the people you know, your children, your cousins, your neighbors, your Sunday school class, that insight, because that helps a 40-year-old relax at a level that nothing else does, that I've found. Just relax. You're not supposed to have it all together. If you can make your mortgage and take your kids to school and save $1 a month for your kids' education, you're way ahead of most people. Relax. Define your single greatest strength. Between 40 and 45, people are trying to define their strength. What am I really good at? My 30s, I've done enough that by my 40s, I really know what's my best thing to do. But between 45 and 50, I find 40-something-year-olds basically saying, what is it, if that's my strength, what do I not want to do anymore? And they're beginning to abandon certain things that they don't have to do anymore, which is appropriate. And then, what is my life work? People say to me, Bob, I want to talk to you about my profession or my career or I don't know exactly what it is. I say, let me give you a word I think your instincts are looking for. Your instincts are looking for the word life work. That's it. What you're looking for in your 40s is, what could I see myself doing for the rest of my life? What's my life work? Is what I'm doing worthy of my life work, of the rest of my life? I say, you're trying to define your life work. And for wives particularly, the 40s are a time, it is a phase. It feels like this is pressure that will never end. It feels like I'm under so much pressure right now, this will never end. It never stops. The teenagers are asking questions I don't know how to answer. It just seems like there's pressure, it's struggle. It'll never stop. I say, relax. It's a phase. It seems like it'll never end, but it will. It'll end. Your 50s, when you hit your 50s, you begin to hit your stride. It just, like when you turn 50, it's like almost like an overnight sensation. It feels like, the 40s are over. I'm 50. It's like you begin to feel like, well, now that I know what I know, people know that I know, I'm good to go. It feels like 50s are a whole different phase, a different era. It's a different phase of life. But here's a warning. From 50 to 53, every executive I've ever talked about this with, 50 to 53, there are certain days you feel old. You feel like, oh man, I'm getting old. It's like, and you know what? You feel over the hill at certain points in your 50s. And what you're doing is dividing the world into your life from 0 to 100. And you feel like I've got to work till I'm 50, and then everything else from 50 is getting ready to be 100. And I've passed my prime. I'm over my peak. It's like it's over the hill. I say, no. That's not right at all. Your 50s are your final decade to get ready to maximize your 60s. Let me say it again. Your 50s are your final decade to get ready to maximize your 60s. So, ask yourself, Am I doing what I want to do in my 60s? Am I with the organization I want to be with in my 60s? Am I using the model I want to use in my 60s? It's like, is this what I want to do to maximize my 60s? If not, 50s are not too late to change it, to get to the point where in your 60s, you're with the organization you want to be with, or you're on your own. You got the models you're working with on your own. You've defined your target audience. You've defined your life message. You've defined your single word focus. You've defined what you want to do in your 60s. But if you haven't done that, then your 50s are the final decade to get ready to maximize your 60s. In your 50s, you also want to become a mentor if you haven't. Basically, look around yourself and ask, if I could put my finger on the 1 or 2 or 3 people that I most enjoy, the young leaders I most enjoy, that I most believe in, that I feel has the most potential, how can I become one of their life mentors? Let me define mentoring for you for just a second. Ideally, and not all mentoring relationships are ideal, but ideally, mentoring is a lifelong relationship in which the mentor helps the protege realize her or his God-given potential. Who is it that you see, the 2 or 3 people that you see have just enormous potential, that you could come alongside and help them through their struggles, help them come to definition, clear definition, etc., to get to the point where they realize over a lifetime their full potential. I'm saying in your 50s is a great time to start bringing along a 20-something, a 30-something, a 40-something to help them grow into their potential. And then another thing I would encourage you to do is make a list of life milestones. One of the things you're going to find is that you often have sort of discouraging days, sort of discouraging moments. Let me give you a nothing. Nothing motivates like results. Goals don't, dreams don't. Nothing motivates like seeing actual results. So when you get to a place in life where you're feeling discouraged, don't look ahead to what all you've got to do. Look back on how far you've come. And by 50s, you've come a long ways. You've gotten a lot of milestones accomplished. Look at those, and you're going to find that you're encouraged to go on into the future. So I'm saying, take some time. Take an hour at Starbucks. Take a morning somewhere. Take some time with your spouse. Just take some time in your 50s to take some time and get away and make a list of those life milestones you've accomplished. Do a list of 20, 30, 40, 50, how many ever you want to do, not only of the good things you've accomplished, but of the negative things, the pain points, the struggles you've had where you've learned lessons for the future. God's taught you lessons that will help you be strong in the future. So make a list of those milestones that will help you for the future. Your 60s are strategic. It's the most productive decade of your life. Years ago, Forbes magazine did a survey where they asked Warren Buffett and a bunch of people, in what decade do you like to make the most money? They said, by far, our 60s. What's the next decade? Our 70s. Our next decade, our 50s. Your natural energy is decreasing, but your strategic thinking is increasing. Gail Sheehy, who wrote the book Passages, did a study where she found that today the 75-year-old feels approximately as old as our dads and moms did at 65. I found that to be true. A lot of the executives I've worked with, including 2 very specifically come to mind right now, is that Bill Bright and Jim Dobson both said to me around their 65th birthday, I feel my team has finally come together. I feel like it's sort of finally come together. When they're 65, not 35. Remember, your 60s are the decades of greatest income and influence. Your 70s is succession. Well, I find that when you turn 70, you become almost obsessed with succession. It's like, what's going to happen to all this stuff I've been building? What's going to happen to this organization? Who's ready? Anyone ready to take it over, etc. Make sure your estate plan is updated and you've got the right executor. Write out your memories in advance for future generations. Cheryl and I wrote a book called Memories that some of you may have. But it's a book where you write down your memories. It's a lot of questions that you just answer the question. But you know what I find? Let me ask you this. If you had a book, a handwritten book, in which your great ancestor in the late 1600s, early 1700s, back in there, 1800s, had written by hand their life experience, would you read that at least once in your lifetime? Everyone says yes. One way that you can be sure to influence 8 generations of your family in the future is to handwrite your memories today. I encourage you to do it. Keep mentoring. Your 80s are slippery. It's like black ice. I grew up in northern Michigan where you had black ice, where rain freezes. The pavement, the blacktop looks just like it's just blacktop, but it's covered with a thin sheet of ice. The 80s feel that way. It's like friends and peers are dying. Health is not predictable. Often finances feel a little bit slippery. Need a downsized lifestyle. That's the 80s. 90s is sleep. Those of you who have parents and grandparents still alive, what I'd encourage you to consider is anyone in their 90s, I would encourage you to consider in your mind getting an ideal time of day to call them once a day for the rest of their life. I called my dad for about 10 years, twice a day for his last 10 years. After Mom died, I'd call him every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon just to sort of find out how he's doing. If he's getting depressed or discouraged, we'd talk for 15 minutes about the old days. If he wasn't down, if he'd say, oh, how you doing, Dad? Oh, pretty good today. This is a good day. I said, well, listen, I'll call you tonight at 9. Just wanted to check in. Okay, thanks. Love you. And hang up. A minute. At 9 o'clock, I'd call him to tuck him in, so to speak, to make sure he had a good day, make sure he's okay, etc. You know what I found? Every single day, he would look forward to those calls all day long. If I missed a day, I've missed a call. What happened? But I'm saying, consider calling your parents once a day. You're going to find that when they're gone, which last year in May, Cheryl's mom passed away at 97. My dad passed away in December at 92, you're glad you talked to them that much. In their 90s, our parents don't want to die like they saw their parents do. Their parents die. They wish they could just go to sleep and never wake up. Every 90-year-old I've talked to in the last year or two has mentioned the word sleep. Every one of them. Not, I wish I could sleep more, but rather, I wish I could just die in my sleep and wake up with my loved ones on the other side. It may not be that way, but that's where they are. That's what they want to have happen. Now, what I would say is this. When I've talked about your decade, I think you'll see that it's pretty accurate. But what I'd like you to see is that when I talked about other decades, that's what your children are going through. That's what the young executives on your team are going through. That's what your board members someone else may be going through. When I talk about older people, that's what your parents, your grandparents, older people on your board, etc., are going through. So be sensitive to not only your decade, but to their decade as well. But among other things, I'd like to encourage you, just relax where you are. Just relax. Because what you're experiencing may not be a situation where you're the only one that's ever experienced that. But what you may find is that this is very typical of the age I'm at the moment. And I can just relax in it knowing what else is coming ahead. So, I hope that's helpful to you, just to see some of those perspectives and to realize that the predictability is that 0 to 10, your children need a sense of security. Your teens are going to be self-oriented. I encourage you to take them on a trip to India or a trip to Haiti or somewhere where they can see that not everyone has 70 pair of shoes. 20s, your kids are trying to survive in the adult world. 30s, they're trying to be as successful as they can possibly be as soon as they can get to the top of the ladder. 40s, it's like your instincts from 37 to 43 turn to, I know I'm successful, but I'm making a significant difference. 50s is begin to hit stride. 60s are strategic, where you begin thinking, I don't have the energy. How can I make the most strategic difference? 70s is succession. 80s is slippery. And 90s is sleep. Thank you.